Hey everybody, Pastor George back with some eternal perspective on current events. And all of this news about coronavirus has people on edge. It seems to be spreading rapidly and there doesn't seem to be anything anybody can do about it. Yes, we're social distancing. Yes, we're washing our hands. And we're working from home. And we're doing whatever we can to flatten the curve. But it seems like we wake up to another statistic, another state shutting down, another wave of bad news. And all of that can make us start to feel like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, who never has anything positive to look forward to and always takes a fatalistic approach. The news has been giving us projections and predictions about what to expect in the next couple of weeks. And I think it is wise to heed the warnings and to be responsible. But as disciples of Jesus, we have other things to look forward to as well. As disciples, we should expect what no one else expects. We should expect the unreasonable, the impossible, the improbable. We should expect the unexpected. Now let's review some stuff that's happened in Mark's Gospel from just the last two chapters. Between the end of Mark 4 and through chapter 5, we see 4 miracles happening in quick succession. First, Jesus calms the wind and the waves, and we've already talked about that. Second, Jesus meets a man. He's filled not just with one, but a legion of demons. And he casts the demons out into a herd of pigs, and he restores the man to sanity. Third is a woman touches the hem of the robe of Jesus and is healed of a 12-year physical affliction. See, every time Jesus performs a miracle, it's beyond the imagination and the expectation of the people around him. And now, Jesus enters the home of a young girl who has died and brings her back to life. Here's the story. Jesus got back in the boat and went to the other side of the lake, where a large crowd gathered around him on the shore. Then a leader of the local synagogue, whose name was Jairus, arrived. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet, pleading fervently with him. "My little daughter is dying," he said. "Please, come and lay your hands on her, heal her, so she can live." And Jesus went with him, and all the people followed, crowding around him. So we know now while he was on his way, Jesus was delayed by the woman who reached out, and he touched his robe. And yet while he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue, and they told him, "Your daughter is dead. There is no use troubling the teacher now." Now, this is usually what happens. Things reach a point where we don't think God can intervene anymore. There's a mental point of no return where we don't see how the situation can change. It was one thing when the little girl was sick, but now she's dead, so they figure, why bother Jesus? Have things ever gotten to a point in your life that we actually stop praying or that we stop expecting God to work? It's too late now. Why bother God? But Jesus overheard them and he said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just have faith." Now Jairus has a decision to make here. Does he listen to the crowd or does he listen to Jesus? Does he let Jesus leave or does he double down and bring him into his home? Does he live in fear or does he act in faith? Fortunately, he does the right thing. Then Jesus stopped the crowd and he wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw how much commotion and weeping and wailing. And he went inside and he asked, "Why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead. She's only asleep." And the crowd laughed at him, but he made them all leave. And he took the girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples into the room where the girl was lying. Now, I love that Jesus disperses the naysayers. I love that he protects the family from people who had no hope, who had no faith. And there's a lot of that out there right now. And we have to be careful about who we let into our spiritual home. There will always be people who have no real faith and as a result have no hope. But Jesus is asking us to expect more from him, to expect the unexpected. Holding her hand, he said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And the girl, who was 12 years old, immediately stood up and walked around. And they were overwhelmed and totally amazed. Now, I think that would be my reaction too. Totally amazed. This girl was dead and now she's alive. Not just alive, but thriving. She was so sick she was at death's door. Actually, she'd already walked through that door and now she was walking around. Now, I imagine that this was even more than Jairus had hoped for. But when Jesus is in the room, nothing is impossible, and impossible is nothing. So, at what point do we, as disciples, begin to expect the unexpected from God? When do we realize that nothing is too big for Him? When do we stop listening to the crowd and start following Jesus? Or stop living in fear and acting in faith? Now, we'd all acknowledge that God is big enough. But do we acknowledge that He's big enough for us? Now, we need to live and believe that nothing is impossible for God, and impossible is nothing. You know, there's a real life application for expecting the unexpected from God. First, expecting the unexpected will grow our faith. Once we believe what God is capable of, and it gives us the boldness to step out and to follow Him. Now, we can pray knowing that what's out of our hands is firmly in His. Not only that, expecting the unexpected will transform our serving. What will I be willing to do knowing that God's power will accomplish more than what I offer? And anytime I've obediently followed God in faith, I've always seen Him do more through me and in me than what I thought possible, even beyond what I thought I was qualified to do. And maybe most importantly, expecting the unexpected will make sure that we always have hope. Just because we don't see a way doesn't mean that God isn't blazing a path on His terms. You know, people laughed at Jesus when He came into the house because they had no hope. But Jesus ruined every funeral He ever attended. And sometimes people will laugh at you when you plant your flag of faith and say, "My God is bigger than this, and He is in control." Maybe you can't, but He can. This weekend is Palm Sunday, and it's the beginning of Holy Week and the start of the most unexpected week in history. Now, they didn't expect Jesus to come on a donkey, even though it was prophesied that He would. They didn't expect that one man, Jesus, would die on a Roman cross for the sins of the whole world, and that 3 days later He would rise from the grave. It was so unexpected that even with Jesus telling the disciples that was going to happen, they still didn't get it. The point is, we shouldn't be surprised when things beyond our control and beyond our comprehension become normal. We shouldn't be surprised when God heals people of inoperable illness, or when provision seems to appear from nowhere, or when something seemingly terrible actually creates a tremendous blessing. We shouldn't be surprised when everything we thought could or would or even should go wrong doesn't. We shouldn't be surprised when we step out in faith and the results are far greater than the effort that we put in. We shouldn't be surprised when there's no other explanation than that this must be God. Is it too good to be true? Maybe that means that it must be so good, only God can do it. These are unprecedented times. As a nation and as a world, we're facing unparalleled challenges, global upheaval, overwhelming uncertainty. But this is where the power, the faithfulness, and the love of God has the opportunity to shine through if we listen to the words of Jesus to don't be afraid, just have faith. I don't know what God is going to do. I don't know how He's going to do it, and I don't even know when He's going to do it. And if I try to imagine what He might do, I know I won't even be close. But I know my God, and I know He's powerful. And so I know that there's one thing I can do, and that's expect the unexpected. It'll be better than you can imagine. I love you. Be encouraged. Be blessed. We'll see you soon.